Welcome to this channel. This channel is for education and culture based on historical data and scientific evidence. So whoever not into the historical evidence and scientific verifications, please do not continue to watch this video. Now, today I'd like to share with you on the core of the internal or Qigong or Neigong. Today I'd like to give you a solid view. So here on, you exactly know what you get into when you are in talking about the Qigong internal or Neigong. Because internal today is just a term, Qigong or Neigong is just a term. However, for the ancient Chinese, internal, Qigong, Neigong, all this stuff is well defined. It is not up to everybody's creativity. And what I'm going to present to you is not theory. It is the facts, the truth, the process, the technology, so one be able to develop it if one have the conditions. Now, what do I mean by have the conditions? It means that not everybody can develop everything in Kung Fu because our health conditions is a big boundary limit. We need to know our limit. So it is never one size fit all. Like a baby, you cannot train a baby to run marathon because there's a baby's physical limit. Okay? Now, so we need to know that disregard of it is internal Neigong or Qigong, whatever term. The core is breathing. Breathing. Okay? So in today's language, meaning that you take more oxygen, your VO2 max is higher than breathing. Okay? And also you need to be able to handle your intra-abdominal pressure. So in Neigong, in Qigong, in internal, one has to address and be able to handle this breathing, which means one side oxygen, another side is the intra-abdominal pressure. Without this training and development, there is no Qigong, Neigong, or internal. There's a real deal traditional Chinese martial arts since 460 years ago. Okay? If it is a martial art, you better have the development or training of the breathing. Not get into other stuff like Qi and so forth. Even if you want to talk about Qi and so forth, it always have to base on breathing. The different states of breathing. So if you read about General Qi, which is I translate that in the Kung Fu 1560, that is the role of breathing there, based on the ancient training. So be it General Qi or Shaolin, the real Shaolin training for martial arts, breathing is critical. So it is like your car's combustion systems. You need that combustion system. You need to address that combustion system, know exactly what it is, and know the process how to develop it. Not theory, not philosophy. Okay? Now, breathing is one side. Like today we talk about the oxygen intake, and then how deep our breathing volume. And then there's another thing, which is the intra-abdominal pressure, which is you never see people talk about it. At least up to this instance in internal or Qigong, Neigong. Up to today, people don't really show you in public, at least, what is going on. Now, you need to know that this is your intra-abdominal pressure. And when one practice the Qigong or Neigong or internal art, one need to be able to handle this. Okay? So this B here is the intra-pressure. This A here, the blue, from different direction, which is the external pressure. So say when one inhale, this diaphragm going down, you have a pressure, and then you lifted the anus or pelvic floor muscle, then you form over here a pressure chamber, like a cylinder, and that stabilizes your spine and your core. Okay? And of course, this pressure will be also help one to be able to take impact. Now, however, one need to be careful. How much pressure one can take here? And what type of pressure? Is the pressure evenly spread, and how to manage it? That is all the problem there. Okay? And so it is not just like, oh, I'm talking about anus, my spine. It's not. One need to know how one be able to handle the chest, the shoulder, and the tailbone area, the back, the lower back, and so forth, to handle this pressure. If this is too much pressure or is off balance, you is looking into like a hernia, or is going to cause different problem to your internal organs. Now, that is a part of internal art. Okay? So one simply cannot ignore all those things and say, well, I have internal art or Qigong and Neigong, and then I have Qi and have mind. Those are just don't know what it is. So you, in one way, you have to manage. You have to be able to train how to handle your breathing, your oxygen, how deep you can get there, and what is the proper. On another hand, you have to handle this intra pressure. You need to know that. If you really have the training, you know that. So usually, like in Wing Chun, as soon as like at the beginning of Wing Chun, you tuck in your what do you call it? Your fist, you raise your arm and going down. Just looking at your shoulder, people know that whether you have that practice or not. Why? Because how you handle the shoulder, you can see whether it's making any sense or not, because this diaphragm is moved up and down. How do you handle your shoulder or your chest? We know how your intra-abdominal pressure and your breathing state is. So it is not like, I just do whatever I like. Okay? So that's why if you practice like the 1960s Shu Lin Tao sets, you feel like your breathing is on top of here, you got problem there. If you want to talk about the intra-abdominal pressure, because people don't know this design. Okay? And also when one want to say, at the end, we always see that at the end of the practice, we always put hand like that. How do you handle this? How do you synchronize this shoulder with your diaphragm and your pelvic floor? That is a critical issue. Otherwise, you will not be able to handle your intra-abdominal pressure. You will not be able to handle your breathing. If you cannot handle your breathing, there's no martial arts. As I just showed you in start 1560, you look at how General Qigong and the Shaolin talk about this breathing, the critical of the breathing. So that is the bottom line. One need to have this clear, need to know which knob to turn to handle what, to develop what. And for the practice of those, not everybody be able to practice those intra-abdominal pressure, because if one have some weakness in the body genetically or is sick, then that is many issues can cause health problem. Okay. And also, one thing one need to know is that one need to develop the neutral or the very basic natural state before one progress into the martial art training or taking impact training. Because unless one knows one's body, how the breathing and so forth, how do one be able to know what, how to develop things? So you need a process, you need the details development. So for that, the basic, that's why it's in the Wing Chun Inception, the Nurturachi Process. And it is done in laying down. Why laying down? Because when you lay down, for normal people, you have less chance to screw this up. If you're standing up and do not have a good awareness of this thing, then one might have a hunchback or lifting anus or straightened spine or the chest poke out or concave, convex chest, and you have all kind of stuff which is in the beginning already a screw up or distorted functioning of the body. So when you do lay down, that is the best way to ensure to put the body into a natural state, so that one do not do something which is one not supposed to do but not aware of. And in the Wing Chun matrix is a continue on that, where one using tools to help in the standing. So this is the bottom line of the internal art, Qigong or Neigong. With this type of understanding, this type of handling, one be able to understand what the ancient, like the Shaolin said, if you want to practice martial art, you first need to install the breathing, 装气. Okay. So this is for installing the breathing. One, installing the breathing, know the intra-abdominal pressure, one know one's limitations. If one have a hybrid pressures or many different type of genetic issue, then one is not going to practice the high abdominal pressure thing, or any hold on to the breathing which is increasing your abdominal pressure, because those are going to cause problem. And if you look at the power lifter, they also very careful with the handling of the intra-abdominal pressure when they are bracing and so forth before they lift. But that is power lifting, which is slow and it is not as mobile. While in the martial art is a different story. In the health is a different story. So this is the bottom line of the internal art Qigong, Neigong. One need to know this, okay? You don't have to buy my book or get this thing. You know what is the bottom line there. This is only if people who need the process and want to know in details, because there's a lot of details there. So this is what I like to share with you today on the bottom line of the Qigong, so that we are not doing things in a blind, flying in blind, which might cause us problem. We need to know exactly what it is, have the clear process of how to develop it, and see if we have the conditions to develop it or not. Not everybody can be Superman, okay? Not everybody can develop all type of Qigong. Those who is more weak, they can make use of this breathing, this light intra-abdominal pressure to help their health, to make one health more healthier, and to help one recovery and healing. One want to go for the fight, martial art, then it cannot avoidable to get into the high abdominal pressure. And also when we are aging, you might not want to go there. The Chinese after 40 years, 48, after 40 years old for the Chinese one do not want to go for the high abdominal pressure type of activity. So that's why you don't have high intensity martial art practice. So this is to share with you. So once for all this, within 20 minutes, let's clear this thing up once for all. So if you want to talk about internal Wing Chun, make sure have this thing. Without that, there's no such thing as internal. Face it, that's the reality.